and what I found out, the reason this was so important to me is because I was attached to a lot of things. I was attached to the money I had, the property I had. I was attached to a relationship that ended. I was attached to things I thought were true that I later found out weren't necessarily. Attached to beliefs. A lot of things I found out I was attached to, and whenever I was attached, there was suffering, pain, some negative experience. And what I started seeing is attachment leads to suffering. Is it absolutely if you're attached? Absolutely you suffer? I don't know that. I just know that anything I'm attached to can lead to suffering. If I don't, generically suffering, pain, negativity, adversity. And if I don't want that, well, I better learn how to not be attached. So how do I do that? First of all, I got to notice, where am I attached? Where is the attachment? And then what do I need to do to let go? So I learned this. I built, these are all long stories, but I used to build at a construction business, and I built 2 beautiful houses in Sun Valley, Ketchum, Idaho, my favorite place in the world, on a creek across from a golf course at the base of the ski mountain. I was going to keep one and live there and sell the other one. And this was 1980, early 80s, 81, 82. It was a really tough economic time. The prime interest rate got up to 21%. I had a construction loan that was 1% above prime. For 3 years, nothing. And this is a hot real estate. It's one of the most expensive places in the United States. Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho. Beautiful, beautiful place. And I couldn't sell. I couldn't sell the property. Nothing sold. Zero for 3 years. I mean, nothing in this area sold. Real estate market all over the country went to hell. I mean, it was really a tough time. So I'm selling other properties and assets so I could keep paying on this huge interest mortgage. And finally, it affected my body. I didn't realize this is how I got paralyzed. It's the stress from that. I didn't know that at the time. But finally, I called the bank up, and I was on a board of directors with the president of this bank, so it was a personal relationship. And I called him up and I said, Joe, I haven't been able to sell the property. It was a year construction loan. He rode with me for 2 more years just out of the relationship. And I said, Joe, this is taking me under. I'm going to give you the property back. It's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. I'll just give it to you. And I had a lot of equity in the property. I put a lot of my own money in it. And he said, I can't do that. And I said, what do you mean you can't? I'm trying to give you the property. I mean, you could sell it for the amount of your mortgage, and it's a giveaway. Someone's going to do that. And he said, no, it'll put the asset in a category that'll trigger an audit, and I'm not going to do that. I said, well, I'm going to stop paying. And he said, well, then we'll have to foreclose. And I said, well, okay. Well, that was horrible to me. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm not the kind of person who doesn't pay his debts and would go into foreclosure. Or, it was a huge ego blow. I mean, it was one of the hardest things I've gone through. Even calling him up on the phone to tell him I'm stop paying I probably started and stopped that phone call 7 or 8 times. It was terrifying to me. Anyway, I let it go into foreclosure. I went to the foreclosure sale, and they actually auctioned it off on the courthouse steps. And there was me, my realtor, and one other person. Nobody bid on it. The bank got it back. This other guy there knew my realtor and came up to the realtor and said to her, he didn't need to do that. Well, I had enough money, I didn't need to do it. I could have kept paying, but I needed to do it on some more cosmic level, and I kind of knew that. What happened, and this is when I got paralyzed. It's like a year before this. I had 2 years of not selling, and I stressed, and my sciatic nerve snapped. Just stress. I'd been working to heal myself. I was starting to get movement back and stuff. So within a week or 2 after the foreclosure, I got well. My legs started moving. And what I saw that's when I learned detachment. But what I saw that's how I saw suffering comes from attachment. let go of attachment and there's no suffering. I'm free. And I had this sense of I'm free. And at the time it seemed irrational, but what I thought inside was I took their worst shot and I survived. Now, I don't know who they were, the imagined enemy, the fear I always had, like I'm afraid of them or they or what, it was irrational, but it was in me. And it left. And it hadn't come back since. It's like, I wouldn't say I'm never afraid, but I don't remember being afraid since then. I mean, it's like the worst that I imagined could happen, and I'm okay. And it's like I got a new sense of freedom. Well, then I started looking at other levels of attachment. It wasn't just property. I mean, it was like a belief system. It could be any belief. It could be, I'm just not good at that. Well, who says? Like I believed, in college, I was an A student through high school. My first test I took in college was History of Western Civilization. I got a D-. The second grade I got was in English composition. I got a C-. I was president of the Honor Society. All of a sudden I'm flunking and thinking, boy, am I in the wrong place. These kids are all smart and I'm not. And I was always interested in writing, but I got the C- in English composition. I thought, well, I'm not a writer, So I believed that. Well, the years went on and I started getting some positive feedback about things I wrote. It could be a business letter, it could be something. And I liked writing and I liked expressing myself that way. And so but anyway, I was attached to that belief that I'm not a writer. But the result was I was denying an important part of my expression and my creativity and the teaching I do. And so I said, I'm just going to learn to write. I'm going to start writing. Well, I found out I'm a better than average writer. I can do it. But it had to be the shift, the attachment to that belief that I'm not a writer. I had to let that go. So I could go on, but so detachment, that's one of the big ones. You said a key word. So what do you do about that? Move it to preference. That's a major part of the freedom. It's like I prefer. Okay, I didn't get choice A. How about B? I prefer B. I might get down to G, E, F, or X or something, but it's preference. Because with preference, I don't have attachment. I mean, that's the nature of preference. So if I can make my choices and live according to preference. And the other part of this that's kind of ironic is, for years I helped people get what they said they wanted. I didn't, as long as it wasn't illegal or harmful, I would say to them, I'll support you to get what you say you want. I may not agree that it's the best for you, or it wouldn't be what I wanted, but you say you want it, I can support you to get there. And so then, and I did that for years, and I did it with myself. You'd set goals or intentions or missions or, and work toward it. And that's useful, it's functional, it's valuable. But then one day I realized, some people didn't get what they wanted. They'd do all the steps, they'd practice the tricks, and they're not getting there. And then I realized, a reason many people don't get what they want is because they want it. How does that work? When I want something, that means a priori, I don't have it. So if I had it, I wouldn't want it. So when I want something, I don't have it. Like attracts like. So that wanting is coming from lack. Not having is lack. So I have got, in terms of sympathetic vibration, I've got the vibration, the frequency of lack in me, and like attracts like. And so that not having is attracting more not having. It's attracting lack. The very opposite of what I say I want. Now this is very subtle. And it's in line with the universal law. So, there's some things I want. So what do I do? Not want them? Yes, that's part of detachment. You let it go. You move it to preference. Does that mean I don't get to have it or can't have it? Not at all. You can have it. It's just don't be attached to it. In fact, I say that I can never have something till I let it go. Until then, it has me. And this gets subtle, but it's how it works. I can't trick it. I can't say, okay, I'll let it go, and now can I have it? Because I haven't let it go. And then once I let it go, it doesn't matter to me if I have it or not. I can do with it, I can do without it. And if it does come in, it could be anything. It could be a new car, it could be income, it could be a client, it could be a job, it could be it could be anything. It could be, salmon from the Copper River in Alaska. It could be anything, like.
Letting go of the how and when of when, or like how and when of the thing will happen.
Yeah. Or letting go of even needing it or thinking I can't do without it, or just no attachment. It means I'm okay with or without it. And I have a preference. Like that's the word you use. That's like I'd prefer. My mom and dad were born during World War I. They grew up through that, the effect of that. The Depression, World War II, that generation, they had some adversity. They had some challenges. And I never heard my parents or anybody or their friends or anybody complain about that. And I grew up, I was born during World War II, and I experienced the aftermath. I mean, I was, I don't remember World War II exactly, but I remember the aftermath. And I remember the shortages. And I remember that we didn't have a lot. And so I learned to take care of what I had and not wear it out. I mean, and be appreciative. So to this day, like my car is 18 years old. It's a good car. I was buy something the best you can and take care of it. Well, I've done that my whole life. It still works. Now, I would prefer a newer car right now. Do I need it? No. Am I okay without it? Yes. I also know that, if and when there's a time for a new one, it'll show up and I'm all right without it. I prefer to have a newer one. I'm about ready, but I'm okay if I don't. It's just that's what we grew up with. We're not the disposable people. We don't just buy it and use it up. The idea of buying a new computer every 6 months, that seems crazy to me. That business model, it's just not mine.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's value in doing without. And part of the value is you don't get attached. I'm not needy. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what I do have. It's easier for me. Now, am I always? No. It's just I notice easier for me to be grateful than it seems to be for most people. It's easier for me to be without a lot of stuff that other people think they need or want. It's not that big a deal to me. I don't like shopping, for example. I don't need to do that. I don't get my thrills out of that, So
Cool.
That's detachment.